I prayed to God, but the devil answered. Erik's shoes clicked rhythmically against the cracked sidewalk of Morrisville. With every step, the weight of his family's financial woes bore down on him, squeezing the hope from his heart. Nights were spent on his knees, fervently praying to God for a better job, for a way out of their spiraling debts. But months passed and there was no answer, no whisper, no sign. Then, one evening, as he trudged back from yet another unsuccessful job interview, a tall man in a pristine suit stepped out from the shadows of a dim alleyway. His black eyes twinkled and a sly grin spread across his face. "I've heard your prayers, Erik," he purred, his voice dripping with dark honey. "God seems preoccupied, but I'm listening." Erik paused, caught off guard. "Who are you?" "Some might call me the devil," he replied nonchalantly, adjusting his cufflinks. Erik's heart hammered in his chest as he examined the man before him. The devil wasn't the horned, crimson-skinned caricature from stories. This devil was svelte, almost beautiful. His eyes, though, they betrayed him. Black as coal, they seemed to drink in the surrounding light, glinting with malicious mirth. Those eyes dissected Erik, laying his soul bare. His hair, jet black and slicked back, framed a face that was the very definition of chiseled perfection. High cheekbones, a sharp nose, and full lips that seemed perpetually curled in a half-smirk. But it was those eyes that held Erik. They promised things, dark, tempting things, that whispered of power, luxury, and desires fulfilled. The suit the devil wore was flawless, tailored to accentuate his tall and slender frame, the dark fabric absorbing the scant light from the alleyway. The tie, a deep blood red, seemed to pulsate faintly as if alive. Every movement the devil made was calculated, every gesture dripping with charisma and dark allure. "I can offer you what you seek. A job. Money. Power. But there's a price." Before Erik could respond, the devil continued, "You want a better job? A better life? 10 souls, Erik. Deliver them to me in 10 days and you'll have it all." 10 souls, Erik," the devil said again, interrupting Erik's thoughts. "But not just any souls. I have specific tastes, after all." "And who might they be?" Erik asked, a tremor in his voice betraying his fear. The devil produced a small black notebook from his pocket, and as he flipped it open, Erik noticed that it seemed infinitely deeper than its size. The pages rustled softly like whispers in a forgotten tongue. "The first," began the devil, "is the soul of a betrayer, someone who has turned their back on those they claim to love." Erik swallowed hard, thinking of co-workers and friends who might fit the bill. "Next," the devil continued, his voice as smooth as silk, "is the soul of one consumed by envy, followed by a soul drowning in pride. Then a soul blinded by greed, one racked with lust, and one steeped in sloth. A soul marred by wrath, another debased by gluttony. The 9th, a soul that has known immense sadness, and lastly, a pure soul, untouched by the vices of this world." As the devil listed each soul, images flashed before Erik's eyes. The faces of acquaintances, colleagues, neighbors. Some he knew well, others only in passing. But he realized that the devil had orchestrated this, showing him exactly who to hunt, who to betray. Over the next few days, Erik became obsessed. The devil's criteria became his guiding light. The first, the betrayer, was a former colleague, Paul, who had backstabbed him, costing Erik a promotion years ago. It was shockingly easy to lure him with the promise of a business venture, only to lead him into the waiting shadows. The envious soul belonged to his neighbor, Mrs. Green, who always coveted what others had. A simple invite to his new mansion, showing off his newfound luxuries, was enough to ensnare her. The prideful one was a local councilman, the greedy a banker, the lustful a nightclub singer, and so on. With each soul, Erik's methods became more cunning, more depraved. But it was the 9th and 10th souls that proved challenging. Finding a soul drowned in sadness led Erik to a support group for grieving parents. It was there he met Katie, a woman whose child had disappeared years ago. Feigning empathy, Erik drew close to her, only to betray her in the end. The final soul, a pure one, was the hardest. How do you identify purity? Erik was on the brink of desperation when he chanced upon a young girl, Lucy, singing in a church choir. Her voice angelic, her aura untainted. The devil had shown him the way, yet again. On the final day, with Lucy being the last, Erik's mind raced. The weight of his actions pressed down on him, and he realized he was no longer the desperate man seeking a better life. He had become a monster, willing to sacrifice anything, anyone for his desires. He did manage to capture Lucy's soul, but the weight of his actions began to gnaw at him. The realization of what he had become, juxtaposed with the devil's deception at the end, was the ultimate torture. Erik, once a man of humble needs and simple desires, had been transformed. He had looked into the abyss, and the abyss had looked back, changing him forever. He had prayed to God, but it was the devil who had answered, twisting his life into a nightmare from which there was no awakening. Dare to delve into the unknown with chilling ghost tales. Then subscribe for weekly videos of the eeriest tales and darkest legends now.